I'm Bill Kassel, and this is Free Expression. This program is all about conveying the Christian message from a Catholic point of view and defending the liberty which makes it possible to do that. We talk with creative, interesting people about researching the attitudes of Catholics toward their parishes and creating awareness about how many people have left homosexuality. Join us, sit back, and enjoy some free expression. From the beginning of the gay rights movement, the claim has been heard that homosexuality is immutable. Those who experience same-sex attraction are locked into a lifelong preoccupation. It's who they are. There's no getting straight. This argument was made to decriminalize sodomy. It's the justification for same-sex marriage, and now it's being extended to transgenderism as the rationale for providing what's termed gender-affirming care. But is it true? Jennifer Roback Morse heads the Louisiana-based Ruth Institute, an organization that studies gender and sexuality. She speaks and writes extensively on these thorny topics. She's been with us before, and she's back to lend some clarity on this proposition of once gay, always gay. Thanks for speaking with us again.
Well, I'm glad to do it. It's good to be back with your listeners again.
So what's the truth of this? Can people leave homosexuality?
Well, not only can they, but they regularly do. I have been aware of people who have journeyed away from an LGBT identity. I've been aware of people like this for a long time. I'm personally acquainted with them. I bet some of your listeners are as well. But it wasn't until I looked at my colleague, Father Paul Sullins, did some data crunching, comparing people's patterns of what they report about themselves, about thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and self-identification, looking at how people describe themselves today versus how people described themselves 5 years ago in these various manifestations of what it means to be gay, because gay is kind of an amalgam of all those things. And what he found when he looked at how you describe yourself today, how you're behaving today versus 5 years ago, Bill, there are as many people who are ex-gay as there are gay. And I looked at this and I said, gee whiz, wait a minute. There have to be millions of these people. There have to be so many of these people who have at one time either identified themselves as gay or acted on it or report strong feelings about it, and who today don't identify themselves as gay and are not doing those things, or some combination of that, and we never hear from them. And the fact is that when the gay lobby says people are born that gay and no one can change, that's a radical claim, Bill. That's a very extreme statement. It only takes one credible counterexample to disprove it, right? Because you're saying no one can do it, and, I just found 500 or something, So that's what we're introducing into the conversation this year for Pride Month, is to just help people understand there's a whole body of people out there whose personal lived experience runs directly counter to the main narrative of Pride Month.
But that is the main narrative, isn't it? It's really in the political interest of people who are promoting more avant-garde sexualities to convince the world that they can't change.
Yes, and there are a couple of reasons for that. We have a free report that we put together about a year ago now. It's called Refuting the Top 5 Gay Myths. And at the top of the list of the top 5 gay myths is the idea that homosexual orientation is a thing that is comparable to race or being left-handed. This is the line that you hear. Gay is the new black. You can't change people from being left-handed into being right-handed. Why would you think you can change people from being gay to straight? But the fact is, the science is now completely against that claim, Bill. The genetic studies go against it. The studies of identical twins go against it. And then, of course, all these people I'm talking about who journey away from that identity, onto some other kind of life, they also go against it. And at this point in American history, the gay lobby and their friends, and it's a complicated question who exactly this includes, But in any case, at this point, one of the main goals of the gay lobby has been achieved, which is to take the whole body of American anti-discrimination law that was put into place to help African Americans deal with our unique history around slavery and whatnot, to take that whole body of anti-discrimination law and refocus it and repurpose it for the point of treating a set of behaviors, thoughts, and feelings as if they were the same thing as skin color or being left-handed, And so the science behind that move has been completely shattered, completely obliterated. But in the meantime, there are all these people who have, for a whole variety of reasons, left that gay identity behind, and they have no one to talk to. I mean, nobody wants to hear from them. People are suspicious of them. People make fun of them. You should come over to our social media sites and see how people are behaving towards them. It's shocking, really, Anyway, that's why people like your listeners, we really want to enlist you in our campaign to help correct the record on this very important topic.
Isn't it true also that homosexuality can exist side by side with heterosexuality? I mean, there are many, many people who are married and presumably have some kind of heterosexual sex life, and yet they may be involved in homosexual affairs at the same time.
I'm sure there are people like that. The fact is, pretty much any combination you can come up with, you'll find some people who fit that category, The person who at one time was actively and pointedly and committedly part of the LGBT identity, many of those people have left it so far behind that they are now living satisfied, fulfilling lives with opposite-sex partners. They've fathered children. They're mothers to children. There are lots of these people out there. And whenever you point one of them out, somebody will poo-poo them and say, well, he sounds gay to me. He still has a lisp, so he's probably still really gay. And this poor guy, you see him on our YouTube channel. This poor guy, he's like, what do you mean I sound gay? I've been married to a woman for 18 years. I have 4 kids. Stop. Just stop with this nonsense. I mean, it's the worst kind of stereotyping when you think about it.
Now, you're doing something that in some minds would be absolutely outrageous. You're promoting Ex-Gay Visibility Day.
Yes, sir. That is exactly what I'm doing. I admit to having a touch of mischievousness about me when I'm doing this, okay? I'm kind of pulling their tails. But doggone it, Bill, on Easter Sunday, the Biden administration declared Transgender Visibility Day. The transgender people are on advertisements all over the place. They're on cereal boxes. They're on cans of beer. They're in supermarkets. They're on children's cartoons. They don't need any more visibility. Who needs to be visible are the people who have walked away from that stuff. That's who nobody sees. And so this idea has been kind of percolating in my mind ever since that. You know what I mean? It's just like, this gets my goat. There are some people who really need a turn at the microphone, who really need somebody to affirm them, to recognize that they exist, and to affirm the political significance of their existence. And the gay lobby handles them by shouting them down. That's their strategy for keeping them out of the conversation. And I just think if you are concerned and you have pastoral concerns and you want to be compassionate, this is a group of people who could really use your support.
Well, pastoral is a key word. What can the church do?
Well, there's so much confusion in the Catholic Church right now. I wonder if you mind if I bring up the topic of fiducia supplicans. Will that upset your
By
listeners?
all means, sure.
That has been presented to us as being something pastoral. But the fact is, creating confusion is not pastoral. Helping people to see the truth, helping people journey away from this identity, that, to my mind, is the proper response to fiducia supplicans. It's theologically sound. It's pastorally sound because it's authentically compassionate, right, for this group of people. There really has very few people to stick up for them. So I think what the church needs to do is to affirm her teaching. Our teaching is correct. There's nothing wrong with our teaching. And when these guys talk about, we know so much more now than St. Paul did, science, yada, yada, yada. You know what? Ask them to be specific about the science. Ask them for the studies that show what they're claiming to show. They're always very vague about that. You notice that? really, it's more scientifically sound, it's more pastorally sound, it's more theologically sound to affirm the church's teaching. And when you encounter a person who's having these struggles, to keep them in the church, to stay in fellowship with them without backing down from the underlying fundamental truth, which is that the idea that people are born gay and that this is harmless, none of that really withstands much scrutiny. We've just been shouted down with that type of stuff. So that's what I'm hearing from the ex-gays, that when they have a lot of different stories, Bill, and that's what's so interesting to me about the interviews that I've done with them on my YouTube channel. They each have a little bit different nuance on it, but very often it will be either a church body or a Christian brother or sister or somebody who really does authentically accompany them, who assures them that God loves them and that the way they feel right now about sexuality and their identity, that need not be their final word about themselves. And a lot of times, I'll tell you something, Bill, a lot of these people, when they tell you that this is when they talk to you about their journey, oftentimes they'll tell you about people trying to tell them, oh, it's okay. Oh. Gay is okay. Stick with that, And in their hearts, there's something else that they want. They know there's something else. They have a variety of things they want. They have a variety of reasons for wanting to leave the LGBT label behind them and the LGBT identity behind them. They have a number of reasons. And when somebody tells them the truth and hangs out with them and stays with them, it can make a lot of difference, especially for the fellas, I think. I think a lot of the men are looking for male friendship that is non-sexualized. And so I think there's a lot of potential for good Catholic men who are solid in their sexuality and their masculinity to be friends in a way that's constructive for some of these young men who are struggling.
But there's so much confusion on this, isn't there? I mean, this whole question of fiducia supplicans, when that was issued, all of a sudden the big story was that the church could now bless gay marriage, and then the Pope is backpedaling on that, saying just recently that no, that isn't what we meant at all. I think the Catholic laity really doesn't know what to make of this whole thing.
That's exactly right. You know what I would say to your good Catholic followers who want to do what's right? I would strongly suggest that you get yourself a copy of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Get the physical copy of it on your shelf so you can consult it, because that really represents the ancient teaching of the Church, which cannot change. And when you and use that as your standard, use that as your reference point. That you can rely upon. All right, that's not something that's going to change because of a press conference somebody has, or a new appointment that is made, or something like that. There's a lot of confusion. You're so right. There's a lot of confusion. But I think it's important for Catholics to go back to the deposit of the faith, because that's really our job as Catholics, isn't it? Is to hand on to others what was given to us. And right now, the most reliable place to do that is the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So I would recommend everybody get that, open it up to the part on marriage and the part on the Sixth Commandment, and you'll find everything you need right there.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Ruth Institute and how people can find out more about your work.
Yes. Well, thanks for asking that question, Bill, because we're always looking for people who are committed on these issues. Yeah, the Ruth Institute is an international interfaith coalition to defend a family and build a civilization of love. I'm really committed to this being an interfaith coalition, Bill. I'm Roman Catholic, as you can tell, but the truths that the Church teaches are really universal. The human body is a certain thing, and God's will for us is a certain thing, and the closer you stick to what is real, the happier you're going to be. The point that we always try to emphasize is that children have rights with respect to their parents. Children need their parents, and therefore grown-ups need to behave. The sexual revolution tells us that grown-ups and their sexual feelings are fragile and children are resilient. The kids can withstand any number of switching around of sex partners and switching around of living arrangements and any kind of alternative family forms adults happen to come up with. And we think that's not true. And I think the reason and evidence shows that that's not true. And if you start from the idea that kids are entitled to a loving, permanent relationship with their parents, and to even know who their parents are, because a lot of kids don't even know who their parents are.
Right.
But if you start from the premise that kids are entitled to certain things like that, and then you start asking, well, how could we make it so as many kids as possible get this? What you'll end up with is traditional Christian sexual ethics. you'll end up with get married, stay married, only have sex with the person you're married to. That kind of basic stuff that used to be basic, that protects the interests of the truly weak and vulnerable, namely the kids. So we end up talking about all kinds of issues because the ramifications of that point are so broad. If you get that wrong, you're going to end up with a lot of problems all over the place. So you can find out about us and follow our work by going to ruthinstitute.org. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll receive the report that I just mentioned, reviewing the top 5 gay myths. We also have a very active YouTube channel, very active Facebook page, and we're also on a channel called Locals, which is the free speech alternative to YouTube. And you can imagine why we think it's important that we be over on a place like Locals to house our content and make sure we don't get shut down completely.
Jennifer Roback Morse, the Ruth Institute. Hey, thanks for taking time to talk with us again. Let's do this some other time in the future.
It sounds great. I really appreciate you having me on, Bill. Thanks so much.
There comes a time for pretty much every priest when he asks himself if his ministry is doing his parish any good. Do people feel the presence of Christ in the sacraments? Do they sense a relationship with God? Are they living their lives in a better way? And perhaps the toughest question of all, is the parish having any kind of impact on its surrounding community? Jesus gave us the Great Commission, preach the good news, make disciples, but how do we measure whether the parish is meeting his expectations, especially right now when we're living in what is truly a post-Christian environment? There's a company called ACST Catholic that's trying to answer such questions with technology and some simple but sophisticated survey methods. Terry Papplava is the general manager of ACST Catholic. We've spoken with him before, and he's here again to tell us how the system works. Terry, thanks for speaking with us again.
Thank you, Bill. Very happy to be with you.
If you would lay out the challenge and walk us through your process.
Well, I think you summarized the challenge very well in your introduction. We have a long history of trying to assess what it means to be engaged in a parish. We know what the core mission is, which is to make disciples, and yet what we're able to observe most easily is giving, and then participation and activity in the parish, all of which are good, and they're good indicators, and they do serve as a proxy, certainly for people feeling connected with the parish community and taking active part in it. But the part that's the challenge is whether or not we are able to move people's hearts, encourage them to encounter Christ, encourage their relationship with Christ. It really comes back to hit you when you hear the Pew Research from a few years ago that actually kicked off the reason for our current Eucharistic revival. A large number of us don't believe in the real presence. We don't believe or understand the Eucharist. We're not really fully informed in what our Catholic Church teaches and why. We sort of become a little bit lackadaisical. So the challenge is, as parish leaders, are we being effective? And there's really not a way to observe, other than the sort of behaviors I talked about, other than to ask people and to ask them to reflect and truthfully provide input on where they are in their faith journey. So that's what this is about, is a way to ask people to step back and reflect on their faith and the activities of their parish and who is influencing them in their faith. It's anonymous, so that there's not a feeling of pressure or tracking or inspection here. We hope, anyway, that it's an honest self-reflection that can provide leaders a little bit different insight. The unobservable, unasked aspect of, am I really in relationship with Christ? So that's what we're about. That's what we're trying to address here.
How is it conducted? Are we talking about a paper questionnaire, or is this an online thing? How's the information obtained?
It's an online survey. When a parish is interested, we set them up with a secure private URL. They then are asked to present this to their parish as something, with a sincere reflection and attempt to ask people to reflect on their faith. And ideally, it's only going to work if the parish leadership is seriously going to listen to the input and observe whether or not any changes need to be made. So it's an online survey conducted over a period of about 4 weeks. We help guide the parish through that. It's very easy to set up. We do the setup for them. We guide them on distributing it to parishioners or making it available for them. Parishioners just have to answer the questions. We collect the questions. We provide a report back to the leadership, and we also then hold 3 virtual meetings with parish leaders to help discern what might be the meaning of these answers and ideally identify some priority actions.
How do you frame the questions? It's been my experience in dealing with surveys, be they political or religious or anything else, that the questions or the optional answers that are given often don't really reflect my true feelings very precisely. I kind of have to hedge and assume which option comes closest. How do you deal with that problem?
Well, you nailed probably the most challenging thing in any kind of survey, Bill. We did our best, and we spent over a year on that question. What questions would people respond to? What pre-selected answers can we provide that give a good representation of what we think people would respond to so that there is some structure to it? And that was with 40-some leaders from across the country, back and forth on how do we get this to simple questions and what do they look like and why. We made our best effort to provide questions that were not daunting, that actually helped to reflect what it was that parish leaders thought they might want to hear about. That's my best answer for you. We do have an option for parishes to add, up to 5 custom questions to the survey. Otherwise, it's a fixed set of questions and a fixed set of answers. There are a couple of answers that allow you to write in other. So there is an opportunity to, if you have a strong opinion about something, add a comment. And those are also provided back to the parish leaders.
What kind of insights are you going for? Or could you give me a couple of questions that are typical of the material?
Sure. Well, there's 2 big sections to the survey. And again, I think you got it. What is my faith journey? Where am I? What's my own personal reflection? And those are, there's a couple of key things, like options that describe your faith journey. Are you growing, struggling, not on a faith journey? That is a type of question. But then some other questions like, what has changed over the past 12 months? And there's a number of options there about talking about my faith with others or inviting others to my parish or other, a number of other options there, as well as what has changed and then where do you most want to grow is another question. And then those are aligned with the second section, which is how my parish supports my journey. Are you part of this community? And do you feel your parish helps you grow? What do you most desire? What's most challenging? And so there are options to all of these things, and we cross-reference them with some of the responses about the personal journey. Things your parish could do better to help in your relationship with Jesus Christ is another opportunity. And there are a large number of options there. We ask they pick 3, for example, in that question. And there's 3 or 4 basic demographic questions that just are intended to help understand if there are differences in particular ethnicities, for example. That's it. It's my faith and my parish, and is it helping me? We ask who's most influential in your faith as well, and that's been very telling.
It's my observation that when surveys are taken, it's tough to get people to be motivated to participate. My parish conducted a survey a few years ago about the quality of the music ministry, and we found that there was a very small response. People may think that the songs are lousy or whatever, but getting them to actually step forward and share their feelings is a challenge.
Well, yes, always. Obviously, we're going to get responses from those who are most active in the parish.
Right.
There's no way around it. It comes down to the way it's presented, where there are options to take the survey. One of the things, we've been pretty successful using QR code as a link to the survey and are actually seeing responses from younger people. It's also the reason, Bill, we made it 20 questions. It's not a long survey, so it's not a large effort on the part of the parishioner to run through the questions and answer them.
Well, if pastors or bishops would like to explore this option, where can more information be obtained?
The simplest way to see is to go to our website, and this is acstcatholic.com. ACS Technologies is the company. We have been forming a business within ACS Technologies called ACST Catholic that is very focused on equipping and accompanying our parish and diocesan leaders, both with software and resources such as Discipleship Indicator. So this website is acstcatholic.com. Right at the top, there's a scrolling set of graphics, of which Discipleship Indicator is one of those, and you can click on Learn More right there to get to all of the information about Discipleship Indicator.
Terry Papplava, ACST Catholic, thank you very much for explaining this. It sounds like a tool that could be of great value if it's taken seriously and pursued earnestly.
Thank you, Bill. We pray that it is a difference maker for parishes, and it gives leaders information and insight that will be very helpful to them in their ministry.
Don't forget to support your local Catholic radio station. In this time of censorship and so-called cancel culture, Catholic radio is becoming increasingly important as an alternative media source. Our programming is based on the Word of God and the teaching of His Church, and we bring you the factual, truthful information you aren't getting from the mainstream media. Support Catholic radio. Your generosity keeps Catholic outlets on the air, and donations to broadcast ministries can be tax-deductible. Urge your friends and relatives to tune in as well. And please, let me know what you think about these shows. Tell me what books you're reading, what media you follow, what sort of music communicates with your soul. I'd love your suggestions on topics we might explore that touch the lives of Catholics today. Important ideas we might discuss, interesting people we might speak with. Email me with your thoughts, Bill Kassel at sbcglobal.net. That's BILLKASSEL, all one word, Bill Kassel at sbcglobal.net. Be with us next time when we explore other aspects of religious communication and look deeper into the great Christian heritage of free expression. Free Expression with Bill Kassel is a production of Good Shepherd Catholic Radio and Company Publications, where good books, good music, and good radio are always good company. Dan Curris provided technical assistance. Theme and incidental music are by Dan Adam. The program was produced and directed by Bill Kassel. This is Good Shepherd Catholic Radio.